gon' tempt me. Off with the kingdom, I'm keeping it plain. Never gon' grant me, know who just sent me. Pushing the limits, I'm building this thing. I'm keeping it tame. The music we making help kingdom advance. Not just a playlist and hoping it lands. Not for results, but it's really for fans. This for the crew right now. Can't lose right now. Spreading fruits right now. We are.
My name is Kunal Mukim, and I'm an auto enthusiast. I think I love being behind the wheel since I have my first memory. So it's a very large part of my personality.
I'm fighting these demons, you telling the book gotta start. I got a crush for that new age, look like it hard, and I hope they compute it. We see the big picture like it's a movie. Living for Christ is the life that I'm doing like.
My name is Nachiket Kulkarni. People know me as Nash. That's how I go with. So my past goes back to Australia, learned to become a performance driving instructor and also a classroom trainer. So now I do a lot of trainings for BMW India. I do their marketing events where we do track driving. I get to drive all the fancy M cars, and also do a lot of classroom training for the dealership staff.
Let's go. Holy Ghost with me, labels gon' tempt me. Off with the kingdom, I'm keeping it plain. Never gon' grant me, know who just sent me. Pushing the limits, I'm building this thing.
So recently, out of passion and more so, I would say just by accident, we have formed a entity. It's called Trackdays India, and which came from being like just a WhatsApp group, and which was earlier a Facebook group which I was part of. I didn't even create it, so I was just part of it. It was an active name, and most of the people who are active in this are helping in doing what I do. So this entity is basically around creating events which we do on BIC, which are focused on learning and safety. So the prime objective of this is actually to bring anybody and everybody who likes cars, who likes how to drive on a closed circuit, has been fascinated with go-karts, to come and experience it and get into this loop of learning this every time they come and get better at it, and keep safety as like a center focal point. So that's the whole objective of doing this.
I mean, I'll start off with mental preparation here. First of all, the person has to be open. You know, it's important to know that it's okay to not know. Everybody's not going to know everything, right? Even if you're driving for, let's 20 years, for example, that doesn't mean that you know how to drive on the racetrack. And it's okay. A person should be able to accept it and be open to accept it. And come with a clear mind that, okay, I'm going to learn something new. That's the mental preparation, what you have to do. When it comes to physical preparation, obviously, no alcohol the night before. Drink a lot of water. As I said earlier, driving on the track or any kind of driving, it's a mental and a physical game. It's not just physical. You have to be mentally alert. Equally, you have to be physically alert, for which you have to make sure that you should not be under influence of medication, under influence of alcohol or any kind of a drug. Keeping yourself hydrated, because you would lose a lot of water when you're at high speeds. The heart rate does go up, especially when you're driving at speeds. So overall fitness is required. So if somebody is wanting to drive regularly on the racetrack, I would suggest there should be a proper weight training and proper cardio training. The person should be consistently keeping himself fit to be able to consistently perform on the racetrack. Preparation for the car, obviously, the tires should be in good condition. Tire is the most important part of the car. Often it is underestimated. So tires should be in good condition in terms of no cuts, no damages to the tire tread. Tires should be of good quality. The tire pressures has to be as per recommended pressures, because obviously we are talking about normal road cars being put on the racetrack. So we would not go into the depths of a tire setup or cambers or toes. It just basic setup should be that tire pressure should be correctly maintained. The brake pad should be healthy. Normally it is said that you should change brake fluid every 2 years. But if you're doing frequent track days, it is better that you change brake fluids in a regular interval. I mean, I would say if regular tests, if you're doing a proper track days, let's say once every month, then probably 8 to 10 months of or 1 year, you should change the brake fluid in 1 year. That is a good thing.
Basically, track days doesn't come under any sort of racing. Firstly, it's an experience event. It's an experience event where you experience your car, and you are coming in a closed circuit, and you're learning how to go fast in this closed circuit. You're not competing with anybody. Even transponder is optional. You can simply remove it, and so it doesn't come under any governing body apart from BIC themselves having to do those safety checks, safety measures, which allow them to run this as a legal racetrack.
People feel that when they go on the track, they feel that it's all about going fast, and you just have to push the accelerator really hard and you'll go fast on the track, but that's not the case. Track driving is highly technical. It is highly physical. You need to be fit to be in a race car, or at least a car to be on the track. You have to keep your body stable to handle corners at speed. Also, you need to focus and understand about the capabilities of the car and work around it. I mean, you can't expect the car to do miracles because the car will have its own limitations. So, understanding your own limits, understanding vehicles' limits, both goes hand in hand. And many people don't know how to brake properly. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions what I think of when I think of track driving, because track driving involves hard braking. And on the road, when you look at people driving on the road, and that's obvious because we think that we can't brake hard because we're thinking about the traffic behind us. That if I brake hard, what will happen? The guy behind me will bump into me. And that's why we are never training, or we are never learning, or there's no muscle memory being developed that I can brake that hard. People underestimate the ability of the car to slow down. And that's what actually track driving teaches you, to understand your car better. Because now you would know that at this speed, how quickly I can slow down. Which, if used correctly, when you're on the road, makes you a safer driver. It improves your vision skills. I mean, in traffic, day-to-day traffic, we are looking at phones at times, we are looking at other traffic, but we forget what to look for. How further ahead we should be looking, or when you're coming into corner, we only restrict ourselves to the windshield. No, there is a lot of space available in the car. You can have windows to see through. Turning right, look through the window. Why we restrict ourselves from doing that? So, if you spend time on the track, there are a lot of learnings which you can take it on the road and become a safer driver. So a lot of things are that way is not thought of. It just, I would say, being able to drive on the track is a start of thinking about driving. We take driving as a day-to-day chore, If you think about what you're supposed to do while you're driving, that makes all the difference to become a better driver.
Firstly, there's a pattern to these events, and what I've learned in past 15 or 16 odd events which I've organized is that people who are coming in are very mindful. People who are coming in are great listeners. People who are coming in are themselves focused towards learning. So any event is made by people. So these participants actually are consistent, and since they have their own inner desire to do so and learn and get better every time and not have a competitive mindset, so it allows us to get trainers. It allows us to have peer-to-peer learning. It allows us to capture our own data, look at footage, speak to people, and openly discuss mistakes. So not have a feeling of where going wrong is a taboo. we all have a very hectic life, and at least for me, I know that I'm building a company, and it takes a lot of my time, a lot of my effort. And when you're at work, you're a very different kind of person. There is a strong facade. You also always have to be in a certain way. You have to give it your best and sometimes more. Life comes at you and throws different kind of rocks at you at different times. You have to go through all of that. So there is very little which you feel is just yours, and there's very little where you feel that this is my happy place. So I think for me, going to the racetrack is that it's mine more than anything. So when I'm there, it makes me feel that everything's fine. It makes me feel that everything's worth it. So a hard week or a hard month ending with a track day makes me feel that that's my payday.
See, whenever any manufacturer gives you a tire pressure, it is a cold tire pressure. Now, how do you define cold tire pressure? When the ambient tire air temperature is equal to the ambient air temperature, that's what a cold tire means. So normally, if the car is standstill for 2.5 to 3 hours, then it is considered to be as a cold tire. Now, whenever you drive the car, the tire pressures are going to increase. That's normal. Friction happens, the tire pressures increase. Now, we are putting in air in the tire. So, air, as we all know, it's a mixture of gases. Different gases expand at different rates. So, we can't really gauge that, okay, what will be the pressure at this temperature. So, to keep it simple, put the pressures what the manufacturer has recommended for a partial load. I would not say full load, because there are two pressures being given. One is with 5 passengers and luggage, and one is with 2 passengers. So a partial load pressure should be maintained. And even if it goes up, now with the new technology, the TPMS is there, you can see the pressure on the screen. It will show you that the tire pressures have gone up. Let's say, for example, 35 is the recommended pressure. And you drive on the track, let's say do 5-6 laps, and the tire pressure is shooting up to, let's say, 45-47 psi. That's perfectly normal. We don't have to worry about reducing the pressures, because we are not doing a race setup, or we are not doing, we are not preparing the car for a race event. We don't have race engineers to actually calculate pressure, and we don't have the telemetry data which will make sure that we understand, okay, what if the pressure is so much at this corner, we'll get so much of traction which will translate in so much of speed. We don't have those calculators in place. So to keep it simple and not complicate it too much, just keep partial load pressures, whichever is recommended by the manufacturer.
So basically, most of these events, like I mentioned before also, they are only and only possible because we have this mega infrastructure next to us. And all kind of enthusiasts should be thankful and also grateful in many ways. So since beginning, I feel that BIC themselves have been extremely focused towards delivering safety and talking repeatedly that safety is the first and only focal point of coming here. Everything is great till we have our first crash. So no matter what, no one should get hurt.
So understanding track is very important, because not every track is the same. Every track will be different. Every track would have lines. The lines are affected significantly by the elevation change of a track. There are a lot of technicality involved in terms of, let's say, you have a blind corner coming up. So like we have at BIC, so turn 3 is blind, or the second last turn, I think turn 13 or 14. Now turn 14, earlier was turn 15 with the new layout so it's a downhill right-hander. And as you come up over the crest, you're not seeing the apex. It's a super late apex. It's an off-camber corner. So the dynamics, the weight shifts are going to play a role there. If you don't get it correct, you're going to run wide. And moment you run wide, I mean, BIC that way is a very safe track, you know. You've got gravel traps, you've got tarmac runoffs. I mean, yes, after the new layout with the motorbikes coming in, they have reduced the tarmac runoffs. Earlier it was much more safer for cars, not for the bikes obviously, but for cars. You could just go off the track and go on the tarmac runoff and come back. Now with gravel it's slightly more difficult, but yes, it's safer. But you don't want to get into the trap. That's the objective. And for which you need to know what is the corner coming up next. If you know the track, then you can choose your line more wisely. You can choose to set up your car before the corner. You would choose your entry speeds. So whenever you go on any track, let's say you have done multiple track days in India, for example, and you go to some other country and you want to go in for a track day there, I would say first 10 to 15 laps, just take time to understand the track. It's not about going on the track and doing the fastest lap. You should always start slow. The slower you go, the faster you learn. The faster you learn, the faster you go. That's how the mantra I follow. Okay, so let's assume that it's a downhill right-hander. Okay, and it's an off-camber corner. Now, what is an off-camber corner? In simple terms, the midpoint or the apex of the corner is at a height, and the outer side of the corner, the outer curb or the exit of the corner is lower than that. So apex is higher and the exit is lower. That is called an off-camber. That means there is a slope towards the outside of the track. When you turn into the corner, the car is already having less grip on the outside because it's a slope there. Now that means if you take an early apex, that means you turn in early and now you're facing downhill with less grip. Because the track is going this way, and now since you got less weight on the front, because you're turned in early and it's off-camber corner, you got less cornering grip, especially if it's a right-hand turn, it will be less grip on the front left. You are going to understeer. That means the car is not going to steer enough what you want it to steer. So you would have to change yourself, saying, okay, it's an off-camber right-hander. Let me take a later apex. That means I need to turn in later. The late I turn, I'm facing on the track and not at the wall. So imagine you have a string tied to your big toe, okay, and you are full on the throttle or you're full on the gas, okay, or brake, for example. So your foot would be down, right? Now stretch the string and tie, and your steering wheel is straight, and tie the string to the lower part of your steering wheel. Normally the steering wheels are in a T shape. So the center spoke of the steering wheel, you tie a thread to that. So now your big toe is, and the steering wheel is straight, your big toe is pushing the throttle 100%. So a string is tight. Now if you turn the steering wheel to the right, your string will be pulled back, or pulled up, right? That means your foot would be pulled back. So now what's happening is, what the car is telling you is that with this much of steering input, you can only have that much of acceleration. For example, if you're turning for 50%, you only can have 50% of your throttle. You can't have 100% throttle with 50% steering, because your tires can do only 100%. So some of the most common mistakes which I have noticed on the track is people not braking enough or not braking hard enough, because it's completely opposite to the way we brake on the road versus where we brake on the track. On the track, you're supposed to brake 100%, about 99%, and then reduce your brake pressures. On the road, we start off braking 20 or 30%, then we increase the pressure if we need to. So it's completely opposite. That's one thing which we have to build up for the muscle memory. And second is the instinct to turn in early. Because the track is so wide, we are used to have visual barriers. We are used to those white lines on the middle of the road. On the track, you don't have that. So if you see, okay, that's the corner, okay, तो मैं यहाँ से ले लूँगा, I'll just turn right. Boss, but the turn is wide because you have to carry more speed. If you cut across like this, you don't have much space to exit. So that's the major mistake what people do. So very simply, if you want to learn or if you want to think of, am I making that mistake? A simple rule of thumb is, as you're in the middle of the corner, if you feel like you need to add in more steering input, or you have to brake after the mid of the corner, when you're supposed to go on the accelerator, you're on the brakes, or you're trying to correct your steering wheel, that means you're turning early. See, we are driving road cars. Road cars are not designed to consistently maintain their temperatures, especially in the brakes. Over a period of time, your car starts giving you feedback, the brake fade starts to happen. The cars won't track in straight, especially hard on the brakes, you'll feel a bit of deviation, which means your brake pads are heated up and they are not properly able to apply that biting force on the rotors. That means you're on the edge and the car is telling you that, boss, let me cool down. And many times people fail to remember that.
So what I believe has happened right now is a typical case of brake fade at BIC after a hot lap, especially in heavier cars. What happens is the system gets so hot that it can no longer actually grab on and slow down the car.
Okay.
When the car can't slow down, you end up entering a corner at a speed that you cannot carry through it.
Right.
When you can't carry it, you end up in a gravel trap typically. BIC is very safe that way.
Right.
Nobody's ever had a bad crash here simply because so many safety measures are in place. So the gravel trap is intended to slow you down and trap you there. So after that, a BIC recovery vehicle will come, pull the car out.
Okay.
That's how it works.
Okay.
So thankfully all safeties have worked as intended. There is no harm to life and limb.
Okay.
Everything looks fine, and once the car is recovered, we'll be good to drive again on the track.
I remember back in that day that safety जैसा ना कुछ डिस्कस ही नहीं होता था. It was completely भगवान भरोसे. Things were going like that, and we would risk a lot. And honestly, now that I'm a father myself, I understand what a child means to the family and what a boy means to the family. And no risk is actually, you can say, is worth, or no thrill is worth the safety we preach. So the whole point of doing these events is actually first make people understand that, if you do this the right way, nothing will happen. It's almost like playing cricket. So if you have a person like Brett Lee bowling at you with a leather ball and you have no safety carrier, you don't know how to swing a ball. That ball is a bullet. It can hit you anywhere. So cricket is as unsafe as it can get, but just because we understand it, we don't take that risk ever. We would not do it. So with cars, usually people cross that line. So the whole point of doing these track days is actually to promote that, there is a science. If you learn it, if you follow those rules, nothing will happen. So that's why I promote it this way. And I never go out and say that it's an amusement park, it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of thrill, it's very exciting, it's such a great day, everybody should come and drive fast. That's never the narrative. It's always about come, learn, there is an environment which is teaching you. That's why most of the participants you will see who are coming here are mostly mature drivers. So we attract that energy. So these events are for people who are focused on learning and safety.
Everybody has self-confidence. Some people may have a little bit more, which is fine. But once you're on the track, the rules of physics won't change for you. And when you go beyond the mother physics, then it can be expensive or it can be painful. It's okay to be expensive, not painful.